Carl Jung, one of the founding figures of analytical psychology, delved deeply into the human psyche, exploring the unconscious mind, archetypes, and the profound intricacies of selfhood. When contemplating the idea that one might always feel empty in relationships, Jungian psychology provides a unique and penetrating lens through which to understand this persistent sense of inner void. This emptiness is not necessarily due to the other person or even the dynamics of the relationship, but rather rooted in the inner world of the individual. Jung believed that many of our emotional struggles stem not from external circumstances but from the internal imbalance between the conscious and unconscious parts of ourselves. At the heart of Jung's theories lies the idea of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming one's true self. This journey involves integrating the conscious ego with the unconscious contents of the psyche, including the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The latter is populated with archetypes, universal symbols and motifs shared across human history and culture. Among these are the shadow, the anima and animus, the persona and the self. Each archetype plays a critical role in how we relate to ourselves and to others. When a person feels chronically empty in relationships, Jung might argue that the individual has not adequately engaged with these inner archetypes, particularly the anima or animus, which represents the unconscious feminine in men and the unconscious masculine in women. These figures are not merely psychological constructs. They influence how we perceive and interact with people of the opposite sex, shaping our expectations, projections, and disappointments. When someone is disconnected from their inner anima or animus, they are likely to project their unmet needs, unrecognized traits, and unconscious desires onto their partner. This projection creates an illusion, making the partner appear more significant or more fulfilling than they actually are. Such projection is often followed by disillusionment. As reality fails to match the idealized image, the individual feels betrayed or let down. This experience can give rise to a sense of inner emptiness, not because the partner is inadequate, but because the original longing was for something within oneself, not outside. Jung taught that no external person can fulfill the soul's need for wholeness. If that need is unconsciously handed over to another person, disappointment becomes inevitable. Additionally, Jung emphasized the role of the persona, the social mask we wear to navigate societal expectations. Many people enter relationships while wearing their persona rather than presenting their true selves. This leads to connections that are shallow or performative, even if they appear passionate or intimate on the surface. Over time, the discrepancy between the persona and the authentic self becomes a source of psychic strain. One might feel unseen, misunderstood, or fundamentally alone. Even in the presence of a devoted partner, the relationship becomes an arena where roles are played rather than where souls meet. This gap between surface interaction and inner reality fosters emotional emptiness. Furthermore, Jung's concept of the shadow, the disowned and unconscious parts of ourselves, plays a key role in relationship dynamics. The shadow contains not only the traits we consider negative or shameful, but also qualities that we fail to acknowledge or develop. When the shadow is not confronted, it tends to be projected onto others, especially intimate partners. This projection often causes conflict, blame, and confusion. We see in the other what we refuse to see in ourselves. This not only sabotages authentic connection, but also deprives the individual of the opportunity to integrate these neglected aspects. The result is a fragmented self, incapable of fully engaging in or receiving love. This fragmentation manifests as emptiness, a sense of something missing, even when a relationship appears complete on the outside. Jung also observed that modern people are often alienated from their inner lives. The demands of modernity, productivity, image, external validation, have distanced individuals from the spiritual and symbolic dimensions of existence. Love and intimacy have become commodities, subject to expectations of instant gratification, emotional security, and ego affirmation. In this context, relationships are often pursued not for mutual growth or shared meaning, but as solutions to loneliness, inadequacy, or social pressure. When love is approached as a transaction or as a means to soothe inner wounds, it becomes hollow. The soul, which seeks depth and truth, finds no nourishment in such arrangements, hence the pervasive feeling of emptiness. Jung maintained that the path to meaningful relationships begins with inner work. Only by facing the unconscious, integrating the shadow, and acknowledging the inner archetypes, can a person begin to relate to others in a genuine and fulfilling way. Otherwise, relationships become battlegrounds for unresolved inner conflicts. The feeling of emptiness is not a signal to seek a new partner or to escape the relationship, but a call to turn inward. It is a symptom of disconnection from the self, the totality of the psyche, both conscious and unconscious. The self, in Jungian psychology, is not the ego but the larger, guiding force within the psyche. It is the source of true wholeness and meaning. When one's life is centered around the ego, its desires, fears, and attachments, relationships are likely to be unstable or unfulfilling. The ego seeks validation, comfort, and control. The self, by contrast, seeks integration, depth, and authenticity. As long as a person remains ego-bound, they will approach love from a place of need rather than from fullness. The resulting relationships, no matter how passionate, will feel incomplete because they are grounded in fragmentation rather than in inner unity. One of Jung's most powerful insights is that we are not born whole, and no one else can complete us. The romantic myth that someone out there can make us whole is, in Jung's view, one of the most damaging illusions perpetuated by culture and storytelling. This myth leads individuals to project the ideal image of completeness onto a partner, only to become bitterly disappointed when the partner fails to live up to it. The inner longing for wholeness cannot be satisfied by another person. It must be addressed through the laborious, often painful process of self-discovery and integration. Moreover, Jung warned against the danger of identifying too closely with relationships. When a person defines themselves primarily through their role as a partner, spouse, or lover, they lose contact with their inner center. The relationship becomes the source of identity and purpose, leaving the individual vulnerable to emotional devastation if the relationship changes or ends. This over-identification leads to a fragile sense of self, prone to feelings of worthlessness and emptiness. The antidote, Jung believed, lies in reclaiming one's inner life, cultivating solitude, creativity, and connection with the unconscious. Only then can one enter relationships from a place of strength and openness, rather than from desperation or dependence. Jung also emphasized the spiritual dimension of human life. He believed that the soul longs for a connection to something greater than the individual self, whether this be expressed through religion, creativity, nature, or inner exploration. When this spiritual hunger is ignored, people often turn to relationships as a substitute. They expect a partner to provide not only emotional satisfaction, but also existential meaning. No human being can carry that weight without eventually collapsing under it. The feeling of emptiness is a sign that something deeper is being sought, something that no partner, however loving or devoted, can provide. This perspective helps explain why even seemingly successful relationships can feel emotionally barren. The emptiness is not necessarily a reflection of incompatibility or failure, but an indication of a deeper spiritual crisis. Until this inner void is addressed, all relationships will eventually feel lacking. Love, in this sense, is not about possession or completion, but about mirroring and supporting each other's journey toward wholeness. When both individuals are engaged in the process of individuation, their relationship becomes a crucible for transformation rather than a balm for incompleteness. In Jung's view, loneliness is not necessarily the absence of people, but the absence of meaningful inner connection. A person may be surrounded by friends, family, and partners, and still feel utterly alone. This loneliness stems from alienation from the unconscious, from the deeper layers of the self. Relationships, then, are not the cure for loneliness, but rather the stage on which the inner drama is played out. If the individual has not done the work of self-integration, they will bring their loneliness into every relationship they enter. The Jungian path challenges the modern assumption that happiness can be found in others. It suggests instead that relationships can only be as deep and fulfilling as the individuals involved are self-aware and whole. Emotional emptiness is not a flaw or a failing, but a message from the unconscious, signaling that something within is asking to be seen, heard, and integrated. When this message is ignored or misinterpreted as a sign to find a better partner, the pattern repeats, and the emptiness persists. Ultimately, Jung's teachings suggest that the only enduring solution to emptiness in relationships lies in the individual's commitment to the inner journey. This means confronting the illusions of romantic fulfillment, engaging with the contents of the unconscious, and embracing the lifelong task of individuation. It means learning to love from a place of inner fullness rather than from longing or lack. Only then can relationships become truly meaningful, not as escapes from emptiness, but as expressions of a deep and abiding connection to the self.